The stars outside the shuttle window looked peaceful, but Luke's mind was anything but calm. He'd been chosen for a special mission. One no human had ever done before. He was going to meet the Princess of Valeris, an alien world that had kept its distance from most of the galaxy. They were known for their beauty, their silence, and their pride. Most believed they didn't care much for humans. But now suddenly, the Valerian royal family had invited a human to visit. And not just any human. The invitation had used Luke's name directly. He didn't understand why. He was not a famous hero or a skilled diplomat. He was a simple pilot, trained in exploration and basic communication. But orders were orders. When Earth's council had asked if he was willing, Luke had nodded, though his heart beat fast. The ship landed on soft white stone, a landing pad surrounded by glowing blue trees. Strange birds flew overhead. The air shimmered as if it carried a hidden music. Guards stood in lines tall, silver-skinned aliens with glowing armor and unreadable faces. They didn't smile or frown. They just watched a tall figure approach. It was her. Princess Arya. She looked young, maybe his age, but there was something old in her eyes. Her skin was a soft gold, and her hair moved like water in slow motion. She wore a robe of silver and violet, and when she stopped in front of him, her voice was calm and clear. "You are Luke." "Welcome to Valeris," he nodded. "Thank you, Your Highness." "Titles," she said. "Just Arya. This is not a political visit. I invited you because I wanted to understand your kind." He blinked. "Me? Why?" "Because you did something others didn't. You saved a stranded crew near the Dust Rings last year. One of them was my cousin," Luke remembered. "A broken ship, low oxygen, no signal. He had used an old beacon trick to find them. He hadn't even known who was on board. I was just doing my job, perhaps. But many would not have tried." She turned and began walking. "We'll stay here for 7 days. Learn our ways, walk our halls, and talk with me." He followed her, confused but curious. The palace was unlike anything he had seen. Walls of living crystal. Halls that sang. When you walked, floating lights that followed him softly. But no other humans were there. He was truly alone on this world. They walked through gardens where flowers glowed without sun. Arya spoke little, but when she did, she asked strange questions. Do humans believe in promises? What is the difference between loyalty and love? Why do humans keep photos of people they miss? Luke answered as best as he could. Sometimes he didn't know what to say, but she never laughed at him or looked bored. She listened with deep interest, nodding at his thoughts, sometimes repeating his words to herself quietly. Each day they met in new places. A waterfall room, a chamber of stars, a silent library where books floated and turned their own pages. On the 3rd day, something strange happened. She took him to a small room with a single table and placed 2 plates in front of him. "Tonight, we eat like your kind." He looked down. The food was close to something human, simple, cooked, not glowing or moving. Arya picked up a fork clumsily. Am I doing it right?" she asked. He smiled. "Close enough." They ate quietly. He felt her watching him. Not in a judging way, but like someone looking at a painting and trying to understand it. After the meal, she asked, "Do you miss your home?" He thought about it, a little, but this place is something else. She looked pleased. "You're the first human to say that without fear." Later in his guest room, Luke looked at the stars through a clear ceiling. Arya's voice echoed in his mind. Her questions were not just curiosity. They were searching for something deeper. On the 5th day, they visited the Temple of Memory. Statues lined the path, each one of a royal ancestor. Arya stood before one. With a serious face, "This was my mother. She died young." Luke stayed quiet. She believed in peace, in change. Many others don't. Arya looked at him. "They don't like me talking to you. And why risk it?" "Because I want to know if humans are truly different, if they feel like we do. And if they don't, why not?" He shrugged. "You feel maybe too much sometimes." She stepped closer. I'm beginning to think that's true. They didn't speak more that day, on the sixth day. As they sat near a lake that reflected the stars, Arya turned to him suddenly. What do you think of me, Luke? He looked at her. I think you're smart, strong, and brave. Brave, yeah. Not many would invite someone the whole council dislikes just to ask questions. She smiled, then turned her eyes to the lake. One more day, she said. Softly, then you leave. He nodded. I know. She looked at him again. Her eyes were glowing slightly. Before you go, I want to ask something important. He waited, heart suddenly tense. But she said nothing more that night. He couldn't. Sleep, something told him. Tomorrow would change everything. The final morning began with silence. Luke stood on the palace balcony, looking out at the endless sky. Soft winds moved the trees, and distant songs of flying creatures filled the air. The beauty of Valeris had become familiar now, but his thoughts were not calm. Today was the 7th day, his last on this strange world, and Arya had not spoken to him since last night, when she had said she had something important to ask. He waited. Part of him wanted to leave quietly, but another part felt something heavy in his chest. He wasn't sure what it was. All he knew was that this trip had changed him. Then the door opened behind him. Arya stepped in. She wore a different robe, today deep blue with silver lines, and a symbol on her chest that looked like a rising sun. You're dressed like a queen today, Luke said, trying to sound light. This is the royal mark, she said, walking beside him. It means truth is coming. He didn't understand, but nodded anyway. Walk with me, she said. They left the guest wing and entered a quiet garden he hadn't seen before. It was small, private, with stone benches and a pool of still water that reflected their faces perfectly. This is my mother's garden, Arya said. No one enters without my permission. I'm honored, he said. She sat on the edge of the pool and looked into the water. Luke sat beside her. You are leaving soon, she said, her voice softer than usual. Double quotes, yes. You've been kind, honest. You didn't try to impress me. You didn't pretend to be perfect. I wasn't trying to, he replied. Exactly, she said. That's why this matters. He waited, but she didn't speak for a moment. Then she turned and faced him fully. Luke, she said, do you love me? Her words hit like thunder in his ears. He froze. His heart skipped a beat, not because he didn't care, but because he didn't expect her to ask that so boldly, so directly. He looked into her eyes. There was no trick, no test. Just a deep, honest question. He opened his mouth, then closed it. He took a deep breath. Arya, he said slowly, I think you're special. More than anyone I've met out here, but love, real love. I don't say that unless I know it. She didn't look away. So, she whispered, I respect you too much to lie, he said. I don't know if it's love, but I do know I've never met anyone like you. I don't want this to be the last time we speak. Her lips parted, but no words came. For the first time, Arya looked. Speechless, she blinked, then looked down at the water again. Silence returned. No one has ever said that to me, she finally whispered. What? He asked. The truth? I'll say what they think I want to hear. You didn't? He smiled gently. I thought that's what you brought me here for. She smiled too, slowly, then nodded. Double quotes, yes, she said. That was the real test, and you passed. Was it a test? He asked, half joking. In a way, she said, but not just for you. It's for me too. They sat quietly for a while. The breeze moved gently through the garden. So he said, What happens now? Now, she said, standing up. I take you to a place no human has ever seen. He followed her through a narrow path behind the garden. They entered a crystal archway that led to a round room filled with a soft golden glow. The walls were covered in glowing threads that moved slowly, like rivers of light. This is the room of memories, she said. It records emotions, not just events. Only those I trust can enter. Why bring me here? He asked. Because I want this moment to live forever. She walked to the center and placed her hand on a stone. The light around them turned into floating shapes, scenes from their days together. Their first meeting, the meal they shared, the lake, the temple. Even the moment she asked him that question, Luke watched, amazed. "It remembers everything," she said. "Feelings, voices, even silence." He stepped closer. "It's beautiful, just like this visit," she said. Then she turned to him again. "I don't expect you to stay, not yet. But if one day your path leads back here, you will always be welcome. And if it doesn't?" he asked. "Then I'll still remember," she said with a small smile. Luke didn't know what to say. The connection between them was real and deep, even if not yet called love. As they walked back to the landing bay, neither spoke. The silence was not cold. It was peaceful, full of thoughts and meaning. The ship stood ready. The guards saluted him this time. Even they had seen something change before he boarded. Arya stood in front of him one last time. "Take this," she said, handing him a small glowing stone. "Will only shine if your heart ever finds mine." He held it gently. "Thank you." "Arya?" She leaned forward, close enough that he could feel the warmth of her presence. "Go well, human." And with that he left Velar's, but the glow of that world and of her stayed with him. The ship flew through deep space, but Luke's mind was still in Velar. As he held the glowing stone in his hand every night, it didn't shine, not yet, but it reminded him of her Arya, why she looked at him, the way she had spoken with. So much truth, no lies, no pretending. It had been more than a diplomatic visit. It had been something real. Back on Earth, people welcomed him like a hero. The mission was called a success. Earth and Valeris opened more talks. Diplomats started. Meetings. But no one asked about the quiet garden, the silent lake, or the moment Arya had asked him the question that still echoed in his chest. Luke tried to focus on training and work. But each time he looked up at the stars, he wondered where she was, and what she was thinking then. One morning a sealed message came to him, not through official channels, but private. It carried no words, only light. The stone in his hand began to glow, not fully but a faint, warm light. It pulsed once, softly, as if calling him. He packed his things without asking permission. Sure, if this was allowed, but something inside him said it didn't matter. Some paths were not written on maps. He arrived at Valeris again after a long journey. This time no guards waited for him, no royal ceremony. The landing pad was quiet, but he knew where to go. He walked alone through the palace. Strange, no one stopped him. Maybe Arya had told them to let him pass. Maybe they just knew. He entered the garden of her mother. Rya stood there, wearing a simple robe, her hair tied back, her eyes calm. "You came back," she said. "The stone called me," said. "I was hoping it would." They sat down in silence. Luke looked around. "It feels different now." "It's Tish," she said. "Much has changed. What happened?" "Council is not happy," she said. "They think I am too close to humans. They believe emotions are weakness." "What do you believe?" he asked. "I believe emotions are our strength. I believe truth is stronger than control. And I believe I need someone who understands that." She looked at him. He looked back. The silence between them was full of meaning again. "I didn't say it last time," he said quietly. "But now I think I know." "Know what?" "How I feel." Arya blinked slowly. "You don't need to say it unless you mean it," she said. He nodded. "I mean it. I didn't want to rush. But after all this time, all this distance, I know now. I care about you. Deeply." Her lips parted slightly. Before she could speak, footsteps echoed in the garden. A group of elders entered, dressed in royal colors. "Princess Arya," one of them said. "This meeting is against the will of the High Council." "I speak for myself," Arya said calmly, "and I will continue to do so." "This human is not part of our future," the elder replied. "That is not your choice," Arya answered. "You fear what you don't understand." They turned to Luke. "You bring disorder here." Luke stood, facing them. "I didn't come to cause problems. I came because someone I respect sent a signal. I followed my heart." The elders looked displeased. "You will leave now," one said, "or this world will close its gates to Earth forever." Arya stood beside Luke. "No," she said. "If he leaves, I go with him." The garden went silent. Even the wind stopped. "You would abandon your throne?" an elder asked. "I would abandon anything that tells me who I can care for and who." "I cannot," she said. The elders looked at each other. "Think carefully," one said. "This is not just about love. This is about history, about blood, about the future." Arya took a deep breath. "I have thought carefully, and this is my answer." She held Luke's hand. The elders turned and left, not saying another word. As the garden quieted again, Luke looked at her. "You didn't have to do that," he said. "I wanted to," she replied. "Not for politics, not for power, for truth." He squeezed her hand. "What now?" he asked. "Now," she said, "we walk a harder road, but we walk it together." They sat again, watching the water above them. Stars began to appear, and, for the first time, the stone in Luke's pocket glowed brighter. It was no longer a signal, it was a promise. The next few days in Velaris were tense. The royal halls were no longer calm and quiet. Voices echoed behind closed doors. Some nobles whispered about the human visitor. Others warned Arya that her position was in danger. But she didn't hide. She walked through the palace with her head held high and Luke by her side. Luke noticed the change. Where there was once beauty and music, there was now caution and cold stares. The servants still bowed to Arya, but many no longer made eye contact. He could feel the pressure rising, like a storm waiting to hit. "They won't accept this," he said one evening. They sat near the same lake where she had asked him the question that changed everything. "I know," she replied, "but I don't want to live by fear. I just don't want you to lose your place," he said quietly. "Then you don't understand," she said, looking at him with calm strength. "My place is where truth lives. If I lose everything but keep that, then I've gained more than I've lost." Her words stayed in his heart. Later that night, Arya stood before the council. They had called her in without warning. She didn't flinch. "You have disrespected tradition," the oldest elder said. "You have brought a human into the sacred halls. You've spoken of feelings instead of alliances." Arya stood tall. "Your fear is not my law. You speak like a rebel." "I speak like someone who sees beyond walls. What does this human offer that our future cannot?" Arya didn't pause. "He offers honesty. He listens. He doesn't pretend. And in a world where everyone wears masks, that is more valuable than any title." The council fell silent for a moment. Then the eldest one spoke again. "You will step down from your role as princess if you continue this path." Arya looked down for only a second, and she nodded. "Then I stepped down." Gasps filled the chamber. Before they could react further, she turned and walked out. Luke was waiting for her just outside. "They gave you a choice?" he asked. "They did," she said, "and I made mine." He stared at her. "You really gave up everything?" "No," she said. "I gave up a crown, not everything, not truth, not you." He didn't know what to say. His heart felt heavy and full at the same time. "I don't know if I'm worth that," he said. "Let me decide that," she replied softly. They left the palace the next morning. No one stopped them. No one said goodbye. But as they stepped into the shuttle, a single young guard bowed deeply to Arya. He didn't speak, but his gesture said everything. Not everyone had turned away. The ship rose into the sky from the window. Arya watched her world disappear into the clouds. "Do you regret it?" Luke asked. "No," she said, "but I feel something strange." "Like what?" "Like I've just jumped into space with no safety rope." He smiled. "Me too." They reached a neutral space station days later. Earth's leaders were waiting, confused, angry, curious, a human and an alien princess walking. And hand was not part of anyone's plan. The news spread fast across the galaxy. Some worlds laughed. Others called it dangerous, but a few saw it as a spark, sign of something new. Interviews were requested. Offers came in. Debates started. People asked Arya if she still considered herself royal. I never stopped being who I am, she said. Only the title changed. Luke stayed mostly quiet during the chaos. But when one reporter asked him, "Do you really think this can work?" he looked at Arya and simply said yes. Earth's leaders called him in. "This isn't just about you anymore," one of them said. "She's not just a woman. She's a symbol. If you fail, it might damage everything." "So you want me to walk away?" Luke asked. "We want you to think carefully," he did. For hours, he sat in silence, staring at the stars through a glass panel. Then he went to Arya's room. "They want me to let go," he said. "Will you?" she asked. "I thought about it," he said. "But I can't. Even if this is the hardest road I've ever walked, I want to walk it." She reached out and held his hand. "Then we walk together," she said. And somewhere in the corner of the room, the small stone from Velaris glowed again brighter than ever. This was no longer just a story between two people. It was the beginning of something bigger. Things were no longer simple. Luke and Arya stayed at the neutral space station, surrounded by diplomats, guards, and watchers from across the galaxy. Some came with questions, others with warnings. Many still didn't understand what a human and an alien princess could possibly want with each other. Some didn't want to understand, but Arya didn't hide. She spoke with calm and power. Every interview, every meeting, she stood firm. "What we feel is real," she said. "This is not a game, not a trick. It is choice. And no one has the right to decide who we care for." Luke stayed by her side, speaking less, but always watching. He saw the growing tension, not just in the station, but across the stars. Messages poured in from both supporters and enemies. Some worlds cheered. They saw Arya and Luke as a symbol of peace between species. Others saw it as a threat to culture, to old systems, to control. One night, as the lights dimmed in their room, Luke turned to her. "Do you ever feel like we're standing in the middle of a storm?" "Yes," she said softly. "But we're still standing." The next morning brought bad news. A powerful faction from Velaris. The High Lords of Tradition had sent a formal warning. They declared Arya fallen from honor and demanded she return for judgment. They also sent a threat, if Earth continued, to protect her. It would block all trade routes and cut ties completely. Earth's leaders were shaken. A meeting was called. Luke and Arya were not invited, but they showed up anyway. "You can't just decide our future without us," Luke said. One diplomat frowned. "You've created a galactic crisis." "No," Arya said calmly. "Your fear has created the crisis, not love." Another diplomat slammed the table. "You're not even princess anymore." Arya stepped forward. "Then why do you still care what I say?" Silence. Finally, the head counselor of Earth stood. He looked tired but honest. "We can't control how others react," he said, "but we can choose what we stand for." He looked at Arya. "And I choose to protect your right to feel what you feel." Later, as they walked out, Luke turned to her. "Did that just happen?" She nodded. "Earth just took our side." Not everyone was pleased 3 days later. The station's alarms rang DAT. A ship from the Traditionalist faction had entered restricted space. It didn't fire, but its message was clear: return Arya, or face consequences. A standoff began. Ships from Earth, from Velaris, from other neutral planets circled the station. No one fired, but everyone watched. Tense, waiting. Arya walked to the command deck and faced the screens. "They want me," she said. "You're not going," Luke replied. "If I don't, more ships may come. And if you do, they'll silence you forever." She looked at him. "Then what do we do?" He stared at the stars, then turned back to her. "We speak." An emergency broadcast was made. Across thousands of systems, Arya's face appeared. "I was born to lead Velaris," she said. "But not like this. Not with fear. Not with silence." She reached for Luke's hand on screen. "This human showed me a truth deeper than titles. I gave up my throne for it. Not because I was weak, but because I was strong enough to choose." Her voice didn't shake. "If you still believe in walls, in bloodlines, in old chains, then I am no longer one of you. But if you believe in change, in choice, in hope, then hear me now. We are not the threat. We're at the beginning. The message ended. Some cheered, some cursed, but none could ignore it. Hours passed. The enemy's ship stayed in place, but made no move. Finally, turned away. No attack, no war, just silence. A new kind of silence. A deep one. Then came the calls. One from a small planet in the outer ring, we support you. Another from a distant world of scholars, your courage has opened eyes. And one from a young Valerian noble. Thank you for speaking when others would not. Arya's hands trembled slightly as she read the messages. Luke stepped beside her. You okay? She nodded, blinking fast. I didn't expect them to listen. You didn't speak to be heard, he said. You spoke because it was right. Looked at him, and you never left my side. I told you, he said with a small smile. I walk this road with you. The glowing stone in his pocket warmed again. This time, it didn't just glow. It pulsed with steady light, like a heartbeat. Something was changing across the stars, and they were standing at the center of it. The space station had changed. People no longer looked at Luke and Arya like they were strange. They still stared, but it was different now. There was respect in their eyes, curiosity too. Something had shifted. Their broadcast had traveled across. The stars and the galaxy had felt it every day. New messages came in. Small planets, trade unions, even artists and teachers sent words of support. Some noble houses on Valeris still remained silent, but a few younger ones began speaking openly. They said what Arya had done was not shameful, it was brave. But not all reactions were kind. Groups that held on to old traditions called her dangerous. A few ships even sent threats. Yet none dared attack. Now, Luke and Arya sat on the balcony of the station's upper ring, watching the stars move slowly. The air was cold, but peaceful. Do you miss your home? He asked softly. Valeris will always be part of me, she said. But I'm no longer waiting for its approval. He nodded. Sometimes I wonder how we got here. We followed truth, she said. He smiled. That's one way to put it. They sat in silence for a while. Then Arya reached into her robe and pulled out a small box. It was round, made of smooth black stone. What's that? He asked. Something I've carried since I was little, she said. I was told to give it to someone if I ever found a bond beyond politics. She placed it in his hand. Open it. He did. Inside was a thin metal band, shaped like a circle. Looked simple, no gems, no lights. But when he touched it, it warmed and began to glow softly. What is it? He asked. A unity circle, she said. We use it in Valeris when we make soul promises. Luke looked up at her. You mean marriage? Similar, she replied, but more spiritual. It means walking the same path with someone through light and shadow. He stared at the ring. You want me to wear it? He asked. Only if. You feel the same, she said. This is not duty. This is choice. Luke held the circle for a long time. Memories passed through his mind, her question at the lake, the garden of her mother, her voice on the screen, her hand reaching for his again and again. He looked into her eyes. I've never been more sure of anything, he said, then he slid the ring onto his finger. It fit perfectly, and for the first time, the glowing stone from Valeris turned white, shining bright like a small sun. Rya smiled, not with power, not with pride, but with peace. Later that week, a small ceremony was held. Not for show, not for politics, just something quiet and real. The head counselor of Earth spoke a few words. Arya's old friend from Valoris sent a message of blessing. A child from the station offered a flower. It was strange and beautiful. No laws were changed. No galaxies were formed in that moment, but two souls had chosen each other, and that changed everything. After the ceremony, Arya and Luke took a private shuttle and flew away from the station. No one knew where they were going. Not even the commanders. They didn't care. They just wanted to fly. They passed stars in empty space, laughing softly, holding hands. No pressure, no thrones, no microphones. Where to now? He asked. Anywhere, she said. Somewhere with sky and quiet. He nodded. Sounds perfect. They found a small planet days later. Green, blue, and full of wind. No cities, no politics, just peace. They built a home there. Simple and quiet. A place for walks, for rest, for dreaming, and sometimes they still received messages young students asking about love. Alien families asking how to bridge differences. Arya replied to many of them. Luke sometimes helped. Other times he just watched her speak with that same calm voice. It's the one that had once made an entire council stop and listen. One night, as they sat near a small fire, Luke turned to her. "You remember that question you asked me at the lake?" She said with a small smile. "I was nervous when I asked it." "I know," he said, "but it changed everything." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "You never said yes." "That day." "I said something better," he replied, "and then I lived it." The fire crackled softly. Above them, the stars shined, millions of them, across the dark. 2 of those stars belonged to a human and an alien princess, and though many in the galaxy still didn't understand what they shared, they didn't need them to. Because love, in the end, didn't need permission. It just needed truth.